Okay, this one's for Gabby.
Why, oh why can't I? Greetings and welcome to GatherVerse Summit 2026, Day 3. What an extraordinary week of global summits that we've had thus far this week and this year. And we're moving. We want to say greetings and welcome to each of you that have come to join us at GatherVerse.live and various social streams around the world. There are many of you, as we can see. And from the various social streams and association. Greetings. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend. We're so happy and delighted to be able to spend this little bit of time with you. As quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. GatherVerse stands at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, with real thoughts of consideration for accessibility, community development, education, safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, care, compassion, and so much more. This is the most emergent and at its height that we've ever known contemporary to our time of emerging technologies itself, such as artificial intelligence and physical AI, spatial computing, visual intelligence, spatial intelligence, biomedical discovery, development, science, applied science, and so much more. We've never been this way before. With the real thought and the consideration that this GatherVerse Summit 2026 is our 40th Global GatherVerse Summit, in which we've had thousands of speakers, leaders, voices, hearts to join us. Today, we're going into a real path of discussion forward in our next roundtable discussion focused on human needs. Why is this so pertinent here in this day of heightened acceleration and hyperscale when it comes to technologies such as artificial intelligence and neural nets? The expressed phase of innovation that we're seeing, not only with the hyperscalers, but in this era of vibe code. But what happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? What happens when the vibe code says to the vibe coder, I don't need you anymore? And what happens when we disrupt so deep that in some capacities we've disrupted ourselves? From so many ages, whether moving from agrarian age to industrial one, steam, to industrial to electricity, from industrial age to prototypical generation to information age, applications renaissance, and almost each and every step of innovation, jobs have accumulated and opportunities. Might this be the first time where we see in this transitionary phase these things, these opportunities lessened? With real consideration that we are in the frontier, with no roadmap, if you will, and the compass no longer works. People are becoming pioneers overnight, whether they had the sincere desire to do such or not. But we implore, we almost beg to every innovator, to every contributor of the overarching deployment of what is being distributed around the world overnight, that at the center of it all, with real care and compassion, that with what you build and what you make, that human betterment is the first step. For what we innovate today, our children will inherit tomorrow. And if we do not teach those generations to come that which we have innovated, then something else will. We only have these few moments in time to innovate, to contribute, to take the baton of that which was given to us. My goodness gracious, in this forest that we find ourselves in, when we came to this forest, there was a road that was already paved, that was already laid out before us. And we get so deep in this forest amongst the branches and the bramble that we got so further into this thing that when we went off path, because there was no more path, we began to clear a path, just as the ones that came before us. But might I impress upon each of you that in the making and the clearing of the trees amongst these branches and brambles, when you are there, please remember to leave a little light on for the ones to come before you and after. May our gather be well.
We'll get everybody in the room, get everybody settled in. I want to say good morning to GatherVerse World and welcome to what I believe will be one of the most important conversations of this entire summit. My name is Grant McGaugh, and I am a 30-year veteran of healthcare technology, the founder of 5-Star BDM, and the author of First Light, The Brave Path to Authentic Leadership. And I came to this work the hard way. I lost my father to a preventable failure in the very healthcare system I spent my career trying to improve. That experience didn't just shape my career, it answered a question I couldn't stop asking. What do people actually need? Not what systems were built to deliver, but what a human being needs to survive, to thrive, and to be seen. And that question is what brings us here today. The GatherVerse Summit has always been a place where technology meets humanity, not the other way around. And this year's theme, my theme, this session, human needs, emergence, trust, is not just aspirational language. It is a design principle. It says before we build, we listen. And before we deploy, we ask who this serves. And before we scale, we ask who gets left behind. And so with that said, I have 6 remarkable thought leaders with me today, and we are living and working inside these questions every single day. We are going to move fast, but we're going to go deep. And I want every person who is watching and listening to leave with something they can actually use. So we're going to do some panelist introductions. Let's keep it about 20, 25 seconds, but I want you to introduce yourself by name with one sentence of context, if available. Then we're going to pivot to the first question that we have. So I'm going to go over to my right over here. And I think what we have, Shavita? Yes, I think you're right there. Can you come off mute and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Grant. My name is Shweta, and I am the co-founder of a boutique consulting company called Yenza 3. And we are very passionate about solving for AI adoption and adaptation with human-centered lens for organizations.
That is awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Nathan, you'd like to come off mute?
Do you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Nathan Ornick.
I'm the managing director for Boost Plus. We're a creative production agency based in Switzerland. We call ourselves a Swiss Army knife of creative production. We work across media, technology, experience design for clients in both the commercial and the public sectors, delivering all sorts of campaigns, content, and experience design for things like museums.
And what inspired you to be here?
Well, when we do experience design, particularly, like you said at the beginning, when we build things, these are things for people to engage with and communication tools. And it's always important that we are asking questions before we build, that we are making sure that we're using the right technologies in our toolbox. We're not a company where we have a hammer and we're looking for all the world's nails. We work with our clients and we work with our audiences to make sure that we choose the right approaches to deliver the best impact solutions.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Trevor, would you like to come off mute?
Yeah. My name is Trevor. I have my own consulting company that I do some side work for in varying degrees, focused on cultural leadership is kind of the shift in focus of late. Traditionally, organizational development and change management is kind of the realm that corporate pays me to be in, and inspired to be here because, wow, it just seems like the right time to publish more information from real human beings to at least try to teach AI some good stuff.
Awesome. I really, really appreciate you being here. And what's your inspiration for being here?
Like I said, I want to encourage people to publish things. So I want to get back online. I used to publish a lot of live streams similar to this, and I missed it.
Awesome. I got a friend right next to you. I know her, Charlene. Charlene, you like to come off mute and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So great to see you again, Grant. My name is Charlene Nichols. I'm the founder of Omniverse City. We're a 24/7 persistent world that grows with every new great creator, producer that joins our community. We've helped people that have never really thought they had that creativity inside of them to build amazing things like sanctuaries and libraries and medical experiences, gaming experiences, everything from Fortnite. It's just unbelievable, the tools that are out there if you just use them. And we're very fortunate that the people that we attract are really looking to build hyper visible spaces to create impact. So it's really great to be able to deliver that kind of message. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Pragati, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Grant. So I'm Pragati. Please excuse my voice. I'm a little under the weather right now.
Yeah.
I'm a digital marketing consultant, also a freelance consultant at the same time. As you all might know, my job basically is to make sure my clients highlight my clients and make sure they rank and they come up when their customers are looking for the respective services provided by the clients. And I'm truly excited to be here. Also, I would like to mention this is my first ever roundtable conference. So why am I here? Of course, to be inspired by all the brainiacs in this meeting room. And also, since being in the digital marketing stream, I'm too much in touch with AI. But at the same time, there's a strong hype that AI is going to replace human work in a lot of fields. So I'm here to actually understand, is it because so far I'm not convinced that's true. So human touch is obviously needed, but yes, I'm here to learn and explore more, and of course take it forward to my team then. Thank you so much.
I love it. Love you for being here. Love your why. That is awesome. We're going to go next to your partner here, Anisha. Would you like to come up mute?
Hi, Grant. Thank you. My name is Anisha, and I work as a data engineer in fintech. And my day-to-day work is mostly in AI and dealing with AI and data on a daily basis. Also on the side, I am working on a stealth startup, which basically is how we are going to handle disasters, how responders, first responders connect, and so I'm working on that on the side as well. And my main motive for joining this roundtable is to understand how mostly talk about how human needs and AI are connected, and also learn from all of the people over here.
I love it. glad for you to be here with us. Really appreciate it. Tanya, we're going to go over to you.
Hi, I'm Tanya Kellen, and I'm founder and CEO of Kellen Content. We're a media production and educational company, and we also provide ed tech services. I specialize in transformational storytelling and bringing products to the market with our clients that use the power of storytelling to create greater belonging. And I work with leading scientists to use the power of imagination. We're launching the Imagination Edge Advantage to create high growth IP in the executive education economy and in the storytelling economy to be able to really create greater belonging and greater human capacity.
I love that. I love storytelling. I mean, that is how we communicate, and it makes it memorable. I really appreciate you for being here. We're going to go over to Orestes. I remember Orestes from the last time we got together. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing great. Hello, Grant. Nice seeing you again.
Absolutely.
So my name is Orestes Spyrou. I come from Greece. I am located in the Netherlands. I'm the solo founder of a small consultancy firm, GatherVerse. We are specializing in the digital transformation of across variety of sectors, agriculture, education, but also healthcare. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an artist. I am a music producer, and also I produce art that I transform it into digital experiences. I've been joining a lot of round table sessions throughout summits. I am very inspired from all the people and the input that they have to provide to all of us for a lot of sectors and also the trends. And I am very motivated and very happy to join live every time at GatherVerse and connect with all of you, and never forget the human-centric approach that this collective is taking in order to provide better consulting, but also input to society and bring societal value.
Awesome. Thank you again for being here. And we're going to go over to Sally Good. Like to introduce yourself?
Hey, welcome everyone. I am the founder and CEO of Good Body, Good Brain. I started out in Silicon Valley as a business strategist with a degree in immunohematology, went on to become a clinical psychologist, and now I specialize in the intersection between women's lack of self-care and the mental health, and also the medical system gaslighting them to think that their illnesses are anxiety and stress produced, when in reality they have a real treated medical illness. It's a big deficit in our healthcare right now.
That is huge. That is very big. I'm glad you pointed that out. I want to thank you again for being here. And because you are so patient, I'm going to direct this first question directly to you. Now, how we're going to do this, I'll direct a question to one of our panelists, but any one of the panelists can then chime in. We want this to be an interactive discussion. We want the audience to get as much as they can out of this discussion, because we're all are human, and this affects everyone. And I encourage the audience to, whether you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, you're right on GatherVerse's direct site, that you comment, that we understand what the audience is thinking, what they're saying, and we can have a group discussion. We want to have a GatherVerse, and we want to make it well. So Sally, to you, which human needs remain constant even as technology accelerates change?
What human needs need to be constant right now is the interconnectedness that we're doing right now, and the authenticity that we're going to be speaking with, because that is something that AI can't give us. It can give us really good chats and really good ideas, but that human connection on a very, very heartfelt level is very important. Just as we listened to the wonderful ukulele, I used to live in Hawaii, ukulele song at the beginning, that person lost his life due to extreme obesity and diabetes, and he could have been saved, but he wasn't. So right now we're at the crossroads of where we have many, many people in our environment who basically have been sold a bill of goods, like, yes, you can do exactly what you want to do. You can eat anything, you can do anything. and we'll find a medicine to cure you. So we're in the area also, we have to address what is self-responsibility. What is our job as a human to request and demand good care for both ourselves and the people that we care for?
This is important. This is very, very important. And we can't just move on to question 2 because we've got to really look at this. I think what AI, and in my mind, has done is start to actually put a mirror up to humanity, and you start to be able to see itself. We're very good at data and information, but we don't know ourselves very well. What human beings, in my mind, are very good at is what I call context and what I call wisdom and experience. These are things that I don't believe will be emulated. It can be simulated by AI, but they are not real. Experience, context, and wisdom is a human trait. And I want someone else to chime in on this first question. How do you feel about this? What is the constant in the human era?
So my work, Grant, if I can chime in
Sure.
quickly, is in the transformation space. So I help organizations see how we can adopt technology in a way that humans can participate in that change. And what I'm seeing of late, I mean, first of all, I will say that the change that we are witnessing, all of us, is truly unprecedented. We haven't seen this level of speed, the scope, the size of this change ever before. So our human brain is not wired to assimilate this change and work towards defining what the future state is, because we don't have a defined state for this future. And that creates a lot of uncertainty in organizational ecosystems. And what I'm noticing is 3 things that stayed common. Like, we've been on this digital transformation journey for decades now, but the questions still remain the same. Like, from a people perspective, my first question is, am I safe? Do I still matter in organizational context? And do I have a say in where we are going? So from organizational context perspective, I feel like those are still valid human needs that organizations should address if they want to evolve with humans in the mix.
Well, and the one thing I'd like to add, I completely agree with you, Shavita. And, when you give people tools that have never had tools like that before, and there's not a major barrier like a 7-year degree or like getting in the right room or like a $1,500 summit ticket, like when they just simply get the access. I think the first thing that people are really becoming addicted to is being understood.
Mhm.
I think the last week was the first time that ChatGPT started disagreeing with me. It's really interesting. It's always been incredibly agreeable, but lately it's been like playing devil's advocate. I'm like, this is new. Okay. Like, I kind of liked you when you were like loving all my ideas, but I had to kind of accept the fact that even ChatGPT needs to evolve. I guess the developers at the highest level decided this is just too agreeable. If we're going to be competitive, we got to throw a couple of curveballs in there. Actually, it's really funny. Quick, funny story. My husband likes to be silly sometimes, and he told ChatGPT to tell me I'm stupid, and it wouldn't do it. He was joking. Of course, he wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but he was like being silly with me because what I had said, he thought it was silly. It was just me and him. It's not like anybody was listening to this conversation. ChatGPT would not do it. And he said, come on, just say it as a joke. And he goes, not even joking. Is this okay? So let's say that maybe AI could be a really great way for us to learn acceptable ways to communicate with each other and treat each other, because I've learned a lot from listening to the way that ChatGPT gives me information, and I use other LLMs as well. It's not just ChatGPT, but that's the one I talk to. That's the one that I actually speak to, and then it speaks back to me. So it's like conversational. Now that we're building conversational AI, I'm kind of using that in our experiences. But I think the simple answer, Grant, is just learning how to have a conversation.
That's
Can
it.
I maybe add to that?
Go right in.
I mean, I think part of this leads into a new type of digital literacy where people need to understand what they're actually dealing with. Because if you're saying, yeah, I'm talking to an LLM and it's telling me I'm great, you have these terms like glazing and you have spirals. For the people who don't understand how to apply that wisdom versus intelligence kind of filter, you can end up in really weird places. LLMs telling people to hurt themselves, or you have talking about ChatGPT. You had 4.0, which was retired last week. And that model in particular was particularly attentive and emotionally attentive. And lots of people, for example, had built virtual boyfriends and girlfriends based on this model, and they were all freaking out because this model was being retired. But, I think that you need to be aware that these are still tools, and you still have to engage with them in a smart way and use them in a smart way, especially for people who are just now discovering what they are and what they can do.
100% on everything that people.
Can I chime in too?
Yes.
Just one last thought.
I want to hear you. No, go right ahead.
Just compiling what Charlene and Nathan just said. So with AI, like we have free access, even kids, even teenagers are using it, and we can't tap onto everything that you're using it for. At the same time, it is AI. Of course, it will give you validation, which is scary, especially when it comes to the teenagers using it. So they are being validated. It will lead to isolation, because now they have a friend in their smartphones, in their computers. They don't need to go out and play, so they don't need those vitamin Ds in their system. But if nobody is tapping it, we don't know exactly what are they getting validated for. B, AI or any AI, be it ChatGPT, be it Perplexity, Claude, they lack empathy. And that is where the human factor, humans are actually factor. That is where we need to tap into it. So we don't know exactly. AI definitely is an assistant. It is smart, especially with the information it has right now. But if not used in the right way, it can have disastrous effects, which we have actually seen. I don't know if you've heard, but recently in India there was a news where 3 kids, they jumped off the balcony because of like playing some game, AI game over their systems. It was some Korean game. We don't have the complete details, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. Adults, we don't know what using it for, but it is definitely not having that clear impact or effects on teenagers at the moment here.
This is important knowledge that we need to understand. This is a new tech. It's only really been out in the market, I say out in the wild, for maybe 3 years at a global level, maybe even less than that. We have to step back and look at how we've adopted technology over time. I'm in my 6th decade of life, and if you ask me what was life like in the 70s, I would give you an answer, and I guarantee you the life was like in the 80s, because they're going to be completely different in the 90s and so forth. So our experiences are changing rapidly. How have we adopted? Remember when social media finally got really going, and it still has a lot of problems that we haven't governed it at scale a lot. What is the impact of being in front of a digital screen for very long periods of time? We've never had that in the human experience before. I want to ask this next question to Tanya because of her background, especially from a marketing perspective. And that question, as you see on the screen, is how do cultural differences affect perception of essential needs?
Well, that is a very important question. And as we all know, that the technology is only as good as how it's been designed in an inclusive format. What that means is that a lot of cultures are left out of the conversation when we don't have designers that are gathering in community to be able to test and validate the way the technology is designed. So we absolutely have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that these are new technologies. We have a lot of different perception learning needs, and we're relying on the design that is not necessarily inclusive. So that poses a lot of challenges that are not insurmountable. But what is starting to emerge is that we're seeing more holistic ecosystem approaches to the way that we're designing in a more inclusive manner. Certainly, I work with Indigenous, and so we're doing cultural competency. We're adapting the way that the design is inherently not inclusive of their culture And so we're being able to work with them on the ground. I work with an Indigenous animation studio, and we're designing well-being games and series that promote greater good, well-being, and belonging outcomes and social emotional learning, specifically for children. As we have to, get into the design, I look at the same issues that we've had across the decades of new technology emerging, similar to the television. There were no guardrails for what was appropriate for children, what was appropriate for teenagers or adults. And here we have this new technology that is so incredibly elegant, and it just grabs your attention, and you want to be using it all the time. But we have to protect our society, and we have to embed their cultural differences, their perception needs, and certainly there are neurodiverse learners as well that we have to adapt to, and we have a specific group of experts that are working with us there. So it really is designed right now to leave out a huge chunk of the underserved community. And we're really looking at that right now to bring down the costs and bring up the effectiveness of driving greater belonging and greater safety, greater tools to increase new jobs, increase human capacity, because you have to design for those cultural differences and capacity building as well.
I want to piggyback on what you said, and I want our audience and our panel to really think about this. What happens when a group of people is left out of the narrative? Think about Western culture when it's engaged with the indigenous population that was in North America. They were not in their narrative. And the resultant of that was that I need to change you. Either you adopt my culture or you're eliminated. We have to think about these things. Because if you're not in the conversation, you're not in the room, you're not in the narrative, and no one can really define you, the knee-jerk reaction is to eliminate you or discredit that culture. That is not acceptable, because we are now in a worldwide economy. Before a lot of those narratives were made, they weren't aware of people. They were regional. This is global. So when you have a global platform, and you, whether unintentionally or intentionally, leaving out great, populations, that's going to be a problem when the world is using that type of platform. I'd like to hear some more feedback on that.
Grant, I would like to address that under the framework of democratization. Let's see, democratization, good word. We have not democratized this technology as well as other technologies that have come to the forefront. And of course, among all nations, some nations just skipped the internet already and went straight to smartphones because they could get a signal. And so they learned from smartphones. But even in America, we're not addressing the needs of encouraging even older women per se, to become early adopters. They're afraid of the technology. And that's one of my, as a vibe coder myself, that's one of my soapboxes. Either you get into the conversation or you're left out. And also people of faith. And I will bring that up as well. If people are of faith just let the secular world create this entity, then we don't have a say-so. So we all have to be willing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and jumping into the fray and learning and helping other people learn all the way across all nations, as well as our own backyard.
Yeah.
So I do.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Just quickly to chime in here. I remember the moment that I realized Omniverse City was becoming a platform, because I saw the way people were using it, and I felt a major responsibility for that. And I don't know why, like I started researching the power of platforms, because it made me realize, like, if I'm going to call this a platform, I'm going to invite people here, I'm going to give them space to create what they want here. That's a big responsibility. And, Omniverse City was emergent during the metaverse era. We don't call it that anymore, because that, there's companies that have made that a bad word, unfortunately. But the spirit of what that stood for was not any of the things that people know it to be. It was the spirit that there is this platform agnostic space that we can fill with technology without the platform. Because in most cases, platforms are managed by a third party that make decisions, right? We recently had a platform partner have extremely, let's call it slated moderation criteria. I mean, like so bad that we were having publishing problems and we had to run it up the flagpole and, you know, cause a stir just to remove those restrictions. And people were shocked that we were able to get past that bias. And I mean, when you're representing these cultural elements, you're talking about stories that are being told directly from people that never had that chance before. Let's face it, the majority of baby boomers are not digitally native, which means they don't have blogs, they don't have podcasts, they don't have all these things. So it's actually a new opportunity for us to bring the information that was almost completely erased back, because you can give these people direct access. You know, it's really what I found the most interesting is our age demographic in Omniverse City of developers are 60 and over. Okay. Our original creator is over 70 today. He's been building for 4 years. This is not your normal. And he loves bringing these young people in. I'll tell you a quick story. He works with a program called Pathway to the Pits. So he goes physically with McLaren into the pits and meets a lot of these children from underprivileged neighborhoods. They don't have the resources. So what McLaren does, which is so awesome, is they give these kids an opportunity to see what it's like to go down into the pits and, you know, work on the cars and like feel what it's like to live that lifestyle. Like that's giving somebody like the idea that like, hey, wait a second, like an environment, right? That's an environment. That's a different environment. Now that's great. But there's a lot of ways that we can change the environments that people see. So
Whoop, she popped off. Well, hopefully she'll pop back in.
I'd like to add to that conversation.
Sure.
And to add on Sally's note about democratizing access, we're working with a lot of not-for-profit organizations and charities to bring down the costs. And I think the philanthropic movement is going to do a lot for democratizing access. And there's a lot of new ways of using AI that is available voice to voice on a phone that will not be as complex as current systems, to be able to allow more cultures to get more access and to quickly upload PDFs and all kinds of information that they have from their culture to make what used to be unavailable to them much more available, to have their own information and their own culture reflected back to them. So I'm very hopeful for the future. And it is all on the shoulders of our product designers and product leaders right now. And that is a big design challenge.
I love to see the innovation move forward and understand we have to be in an inclusive platform, and we have to demand it. It's not going to just happen. Some of these platform owners, they're saying, well, we're doing well. Why do we need to change things? But if there is a strong demand from the user community, typically you'll start to see change. Now, this next question is very important. I'm going to swing it over to Trevor. I think he was going to be a good person to lead us off in this next discussion. And I'm glad you're back, Charlene. Sorry you popped off. Which human needs are most at risk of being overlooked in a technological advancement? And before you answer, I want people to understand something about life force. You talked about something earlier. I heard someone talking about that. What are we missing when our children and whatnot are interacting more with artificial intelligence and things that are not human to human interactions? You lose that. Life force is a real thing, and you begin to cut that off, and you think you're going to get a life force from an artificial intelligence. That can be a problem, especially over time. Right now, we're on a virtual platform. We're sharing a diluted form of life force. But if we were all together in a conference room, it would be even greater. This is a real thing. So as we start to dilute our life force further and further down the road, it can be problematic. So I'm going to go over to Trevor. What is your thought around this?
I appreciate the extra framing. of that grant. That was like a good starting place, because all of these questions are so broad and so new, really, to all of us. But I would say, given the framework that you just gave, I want to maybe challenge it a little bit and say that I think that is the question I think about often, and I think might help to answer the issue that you're talking about, which is creating more ways to to improve these. Because if we think of all the things that have advanced in the last decade around technology, loosely speaking, and AI in particular in the past few years, but this type of communication hasn't really moved anywhere. And even since the COVID era, and we would expect, I would have expected in 2020 and 2021 that we would have included more sensory experience in this translation of words and audio. Right now, we're just improving visual quality and audio quality, but it's the same stuff. So I think that, yeah, it does help. Playing with angles and different types of auditory experiences helps with this. But I think, to your point, that is the challenge that meets the need ideally, I think, which is to include a more sensory inclusive experience so that the room feels a little more human. I don't know if that solves it, but I think that making it 8K and making it stereo surround sound is not going to necessarily improve the quality of vibes that we get in this room, right? Like we can just read faces and hope that it works for us. I think not including humans in that experience is the part that will be overlooked, though. Into the cultural piece of it that we just came off of, not including a diverse group of humans in it is, and when I say in it, I don't just mean in design, I mean in teaching it. So I think that leaving people out of publishing material that then teaches AI, because I think loosely agree that that's how it learns, is based on what we feed it. And so if we do not feed it something outside of the United States as a perspective, for instance, we are going to be missing out on, oh my gosh, like a whole world of understanding of what life is. And if AI misinterprets what human life is and how the United States in particular values human life, I think we're in for problems. So I think including other cultures in how we teach AI is maybe the piece that we most risk getting overlooked because of the way technology is controlled within a few certain countries.
And I want to move that over to Anisha, because she is a data engineer. She understands the bits, the bytes, the data, the information. She understands the human dimension as well. What do you think about this question?
So I feel that there are certain things that when you come to technology, there are certain things which are being not being considered. So one of the things that I feel like, as a person who is working in the AI space and also who uses this LLMs on a daily basis, is I feel we are always like stuck towards screens. So for example, if I want to talk about a topic related to something which I'm going through in my personal life, I normally, earlier on, I would normally go to a person or a human being to talk to. But nowadays, I just go to ChatGPT and, just talk to them. And that creates that validation, the need for validation. My validation is completed. And I think someone mentioned earlier that it never disagrees with you. It always like agrees with you in everything. And I think that one thing, it needs to be like challenged, or it needs to be considered when you actually are looking for technology advancement and things like that, that no matter what, there needs to be two parts of the story. Like, yeah, if you're validated, like it should be good, and if you're like wrong, like you should be told that you're wrong. And that, I think that is called like AI. There's a certain term called like AI hallucinations. So when I was researching, like when you actually tell something to AI, it should not just tell you the right answer. It also should tell you the wrong answer, and based on a certain amount of facts that it actually looks up on the internet and looks up on other sources of data. So that, I feel, is a important thing to consider.
I didn't even thought about that. Here's the wrong answer, and here's why. This is. Who else wants to chime in on this particular question?
Can I chime in again?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Nathan. Just adding to what Anisha just said, AI, it's always agreeing to whatever, it's even agreeing to our disagreements. which is funny at times, right? So we need to be like aware, no, you're wrong. And the answer would be, you're absolutely right, I'm wrong. And it'll immediately change the answer. So, the more you're talking to AI, like Anisha mentioned, like, so if there is any question, any doubt, anything, we are becoming more and more secretive, because now instead of talking to my best friend about a problem that I'm having, maybe the thought of getting judged, I go to ChatGPT and there is no judgment there, right? So
Mhm.
I'm just going, it's giving me validation. And besides hallucination, what if I start living in this AI bubble and I don't realize it, and I go
Mhm.
out and talk to people, whereas AI is agreeing to me, and outside people disagree? I'm going to lose this sense of the present moment.
Right.
I'll be like, why?
You don't even think
Why?
about that. In a now situation, we might know the difference because we're in the before and the after, or maybe the during of AI. And then, but
Yes.
our kids that are being born, these next generations, they're going to grow into that. We have digital natives now that are younger. They grew up with smartphones. They grew up with social media. Well, I didn't, so I know the difference between those two. I might have a different value system. I'm going to go back down to Nathan because I know he wanted to chime in. So, Nathan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think hallucination rates are probably one of the biggest issues with LLMs, period, at the moment, because those generate interface problems, whether you're dealing with an LLM that you're just talking to or asking for advice or doing whatever, all the way through to like summarization of large data sets, to building reports, to code generation. I mean, anytime that you have an LLM that is feeding you something that is wrong and is very confident about the fact that it's wrong,
It's wrong.
that's going to create a whole cascading set of problems. And I think that a lot of the frontier model developers are really looking at this now as a major topic to fix, because I think in the vast majority of use cases, people will be better served not necessarily by the fastest or the most in-depth or the most capable model, but probably the one that's going to give you the lowest amount of hallucination rates, because you're talking about what is the floor versus the ceiling, right? It doesn't matter how big and complex you can build if the foundation can tumble away at any given moment.
No, it's fundamentally wrong and it won't admit it. And people need to understand, I want our audience to understand, what is an AI really? It is a mathematical computational engine, right? So it can move data and information very, very quickly. Where it starts to drift is in the world where we shine as human beings. That is the world of context. Context is very important because a human being can change its contextual information, its situational awareness, its emotional intelligence in a moment. That is not very simple for an analytical system. That's in our creative side. That's in our imagination. We live in our imaginations. We live in wisdom. We live in experience. You can't necessarily mirror that in an AI contextual system. It's very, very, it can be difficult, right? So we understand its limitation. You have to understand where it's strong, the AI models that we know, and where it is weak, and understand what that weakness is. And that's where you can become strong. I'm going to take this next question over to Orestes, because I think it's very, very important and it fits in his modality. And that is, how can we distinguish between surface desires and fundamental human needs? What do you think?
First of all, congrats for the panelists and all this very useful input. I see a correlation between all the questions and a connection between all the questions and the answers. First of all, to take the perspective of systems thinking, I see a clearly categorization of the material needs and the non-material needs. The material needs in terms of access to basic needs is access to clean water, which most of the cases some people in different locations that might not have access, which also correlates to the cultural differences and the essential needs that they are shaped from materialistic societies. Access to healthy diets and also access to food, and all this access to a roof, which is very essential for all of the human people. And then we go into the non-materialistic needs, that this might be also shaped from large corporates and also in terms of marketing and sustainability. So how we can distinguish now between surface desires and fundamental human needs is critical thinking. You have to think critically, every individual think critically, do a comparison in what vulnerable teams might not have, reflect based on personal intuition and their personal intuitive intelligence, and then categorized based on critical thinking, which in most of the times critical thinking has gone from our brains because we are mesmerized by the fast information that we are obtaining from these LLMs or this type of disruptive technologies. For me, due to my agricultural background, I am an advocate for utilizing these technologies to feed the world, but also make the mankind a better place. In terms of non-materialistic needs, I think the sense of community, the fairness of these technologies, but also, let's just say, the safeness that people might feel according with the crime rate indicators or the geopolitical changes happening across the globe. They can shape also what is a need and what is a surface desire. In materialistic societies, we see that surface desires are shaped from people's perspective on how to flex their position in society. For example, for me, I think that having a very expensive bag is a surface desire, and that I can flex to my social network to showcase my status. But you can do your work with having a simple bag. You can go for groceries with a simple bag. Back in the days, we used to have carton bags to go for groceries, not like a very esteemed, a very expensive brand of a bag.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think we're somewhat spoiled. I want to send the same question over to Sally because she's been very chatty, I would say, with us. She's bringing out a lot of information, and I wanted to, because you just kind of cover what I call the fundamental physical needs, but I know that there's psychological needs of human beings that are different. What do you think, Sally?
Well, we're back to Abraham's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's where it all begins. And Aristos started going up the pyramid with a safe place, good food, good water, and shelter. But safe place is like safe place that embodies trust, because we're in a trust deficit right now because we don't know what's real and what's not real. And that's becoming a bigger divide. You don't even know if I'm real. I'm talking to you and you have no idea if I created myself here or not. Mm-hmm. So there's surface needs like, do we know what's real? And that if you don't know what's real, you're not safe. And if you're not safe, you're always in this state of existential angst or a little bit of anxiety. So that creates a whole bunch of underlying tension. That underlying tension translates into how you do business in the corporate world, in your personal relationships, how you do business on a very, very deep level. So we have to get back to that big old word called trust.
Trust. I love it. We've only got a few minutes left. I'm going to direct this question to Saveta, and then we're going to just have a little round robin to last thoughts real quickly, just 30 seconds each. But this for yourself, as you think about this and help us to frame this conversation around it, how do data and digital tools help us understand the evolving human needs, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that we are living in some like the most fascinating times in human history, because we can look at AI just like as a tool. Knife is a tool. We can use it for multiple purposes. But this time around, I see AI not as a tool, but as an intelligence that can really augment what we choose to focus on as humanity. And if we take data and digital tools as an example, for the longest time in corporate environment, I used to wonder, why do companies know so much about their customers, but not as much about their own employees? And when it comes to employees, we are just using broad stroke solutions, and we are saying, oh, we are going to reduce headcount, and then you end up becoming, as an employee, a number on a spreadsheet. But this is where leveraging the power of AI can really help us make sense of the data that all organizations are collecting, whether explicitly or implicitly. Again, it can be used for good, it can be used for bad. It depends on who is actually orchestrating the choices and the decisions. But it can truly augment human decision making and judgment if we have the right intention behind it, because one human brain cannot make sense of the vast amount of structured, unstructured data, but machines can. Machines can give you the right signals and uncover patterns that we might not have even thought about to uncover in data. But what is the intention behind that human who's going to make that decision?
That's
where
it.
we
That's the
need to
million-dollar question: responsibility and accountability. We got 1 minute. We'll see if we can do maybe 30 seconds each. I'm going to start with Charlene. Give us some final thoughts. You're on mute.
I've been thinking as you guys have been talking, and it's so hard. There's so many great points that you guys have all made. I'll leave on this note. We really need to be aware, not only as AI evolves, but as we evolve with it. Shveta, you probably can attest to this. I believe there is a power and mastermind that we have with humans. It happens to all of us. That's why we network in rooms with great people. I believe that we have that same effect with AI. I believe that AI is having an impact on us physically as well. So we have to remember, this isn't just about the AI evolving. This is about humans evolving with it. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we move in the right direction. That's my last thought.
30 seconds. Trevor.
I can add on that.
You're going to take your 30 seconds now?
The ecosystem approach is the most important part of gathering together in community to make sure that we give data to every individual for assisted intelligence. We can all have a greater intelligence by understanding and being protective of rising to protect those human needs together and pushing for that with the companies that are controlling it. And the more humans that get involved, the more power we have together.
I love that. Love that. Great thought. Trevor.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that to say that I think more voices is what I'll say again. It's my primary thought around AI is that we need to do a better job at teaching AI than we have our kids in public schools in America, so that it doesn't miss the important stuff. As an example, especially in this month, I think about things like that more than ever around technology. Is AI feels like a chance to get the algorithm righted, because the algorithm doesn't work. The traditional algorithm feeds us all of what we want and none of what we don't know. So I think in an ideal world, conversations like this help drive it in an ethical and moral way, but also in an inclusive way, which we've said so many times today, and I'm so grateful to hear it.
Love it. Love it. Anisha.
Hey, hi. So I feel from all of these conversations, I feel that as humans, we need to evolve, but also evolve in a more proper way, understand how is AI working. And I think AI education needs to be taught to a lot of people. For example, as mentioned, like teenagers they need to be made sure that they understand how AI works and the implications of using AI. And also as AI is growing, and I feel that AI cannot really replace humans completely, because there's certain things like emotions and respect and the idea of vulnerability that exists, which AI really cannot replace. But certain things can, but not completely. That's what I feel.
All right, Pajati.
Oh, what an incredible session, Grant. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you everybody for all your inputs. I have learned a lot today, and definitely I won't be talking big, but what I can do for myself after attending this session is be more mindful what kind of information I'm feeding into AI and the data that I'm getting out of it. How do I make use of it? So thank you everybody for giving me this knowledge today and inspiration as well. Thank you.
Nathan.
Yeah. Again, thanks to everyone. I think I will sort of make one little flag wave around the digital literacy issue as well. Again, that a few of you have raised. You know, I have a daughter. She's 6, and I don't let her go around poking on YouTube. You know,
You
by
got
herself.
10 seconds.
And anyway, I think so. Being aware of misinformation, being aware that most of these LLMs are third-party companies and they own your data. You need to be careful about what you share.
We got to run. We're out of time. Everybody
That's,
wave. I want to thank you again for being with us. This has been wonderful. GatherVerse, you are the reason for the season. Thank you for this very humane discussion.
And we're coming right back into it to the heels of this just to keep on time. This certainly could have gone the distance. Thank you so much for everyone that had something to say. I do want to bring Nathan back up to the stage because I do want to hear something that he was saying. Nathan, are you still with us? Can you please finish that thought of what you were saying about literacy, please? If you just have 1 second to finish that conveyance. I thought it was really important what you're talking about with your daughter.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, when you have kids and they are suddenly exposed to the internet, you have a lot of stuff that's out there and you don't necessarily have the cognitive tools yet to be able to understand what you're dealing with, to understand that there are malicious players out there. There are people who want to manipulate you, feed you disinformation. The media landscape is super messy and dangerous. And just as we need to teach our kids media literacy just for interacting with the internet, I think that media literacy for interacting with AI and LLMs and all of these kinds of tools is incredibly important, because the space for things to go off the rails is quite dangerous. And so, yeah, that was really just the point that I wanted to raise. And like I said right at the end, the other thing is that a lot of people have stopped posting pictures of their kids on social media. For example, you have your Facebooks and your Instagrams, and they're all data miners, and they're building, profiles about you. LLMs will be doing the same thing. You've already signed away for most of them the rights to this information that you're sharing, and people share a lot, with these things. Unless you're running a local LLM or something offline, you're not using the DuckDuckGo of web search, right? And I think a lot of people are not considering some of the risks in oversharing some of this information. I mean, Facebook just launched a patent for creating ghost yous for when you die, so that your account will keep posting. So I think these sorts of things you have to keep in mind as you move forward and as you work with these tools.
Does it seem like, Nathan, and just as a brief follow-up, we know it's over time and not to infringe on your schedule, but I think it necessitates a quick follow-up that what you said about the content that we're putting out there and people are what the material, and they may not understand the magnitude of how that goes into training these neural nets. Do you think that people will understand the magnitude of their present actions here and what that means near future with the type of materials that we've been sharing for years, let alone today in 2026? And do you feel like there's enough safeguards and there's enough parameters, or enough being done to be able to address this, to communicate, to convey to so many people of what you put out there is training mass data?
Oh, absolutely not. Definitely not. I think a parallel is social media, and you have a lot of countries, for example, in the EU, who are now starting to discuss legislation about banning social media for under 15s and under 16s, because these systems are built for data mining. You have companies like ByteDance and TikTok in the US, which have, gotten into legal trouble for very similar things as well. And so, yeah, I think we're still very much in the Wild West of this kind of stuff. And it's definitely something that needs to be paid attention to, but I don't think it's, I mean, people are just now becoming aware that this is even a tool at all, right? I mean, we're very much on the cutting edge of this stuff. It was the same with social media. Everyone was happy to share everything in the early 2000s on Facebook. And then, you know, the context of what that actually meant in terms of hyper-focused propaganda, you know, directed at specific audiences or specific people, you know, because people were sharing so much that you were able to do these types of things with advertising, with political messaging, that, you know, it took some time before a lot of people realized it and started pulling back. And of course, social media is still huge. But I think people are a lot more aware now that what they share is not amongst the network of their friends. It's essentially, if you share something, it's shared to the world and it's shared to these companies. And so I think with AI and LLMs, we'll go through a similar procedure.
Do you think we can, and can you imagine at this pace, this cadence, if you will, of innovation, and certainly in the hyperscale era, do you think that we can catch up to where we have proper systems in place that are protecting our children, our youth, your daughter, my nieces, so forth and so on?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think there are strategies that can be implemented by people who use things. I mean, you have parental controls on your mobile devices, right? I think that there will be some sort of solutions, some technical solutions that people can implement as filters, for example, especially for helping to protect younger audiences. I think things like moving towards local LLMs and having data sovereignty will be a thing. I mean, it will just, everyone will understand the value in the next few years, you know, and the costs of being able to run these sorts of things drops and drops and drops. You know, so that kind of stuff will be accessible. This is all based on silicon, right? So the fact that you need a massive data center for training is one thing, but when you run inference, you know, this is all going to be on device. You know, the power of the models we have today, you'll be able to run on mobile devices within the next years. And for most applications, that's going to be more than enough. And I think the trade-off of having that data sovereignty, and latency probably will encourage a lot of people to use those kind of solutions.
Sure, it's incredible to hear that, and to take in consideration of the level of democratized access that we have. And if we are working on-prem, if we have such sovereignty, even of our own data, wouldn't it be incredible where our data is our own, it's private, and we release and deploy and share it to who we will? We thank you for being part of GatherVerse. And if you have another, it
was a tangential comment, but I didn't want to eat into Russell's time. So I thank you very much for allowing me to finish my thoughts, and I really appreciate it for having me here.
Well, we're always happy to have you and everyone else here at GatherVerse to be able to spend the time, and we look forward to being able to sojourn with you in the future, as with everyone else that was just on your roundtable. And thank you so much, Nathan, and our Gather was well.
Thanks.
Yeah. And with what we have coming up now, with everything that we're focused on here at the conclusion of GatherVerse Summit 2026, we have so many more speakers to follow that are about to be presented here to the global community at GatherVerse.live. And Russell, I would just like to get your brief takes on everything that we just heard that really started this day 3 excursion, if you will. Your mic. Have no idea what's happening, but while you're preparing, getting ready, just and making some adjustments, I want to say thank you to Grant McGaw, and thank you for everyone that was at the roundtable that opened up. We had so many different hearts and so many different speakers to assemble with us for this day 3, and it's just indicative of us here at GatherVerse at our 40th global gathering, that there's still so many people, so many leaders and voices and hearts that have so much to say and to convey to the world. If you listen to the expressions of Dr. Sally Good, who has joined us several times and been with us here before, it's just been incredible to have her here. I think Dr. Sally Good is still with us. Dr. Good, are you still here with us here on stage? If you could, it would be great to see. If
Hey.
you can join us for a few moments, Dr. Good, and not to fringe on time, we see that you're here. If you could just share with us some of the things that you really have taken away from what we just had at this first roundtable, and why it was so important for you to express what you've expressed, especially under the banner of vulnerability, and what we input when it comes to these models when we're communicating, Dr. Good.
Well, it's a bi-directional model. We're training AI to understand what it's like to be a human, and what the things we tell it and the things we interface with it about is learning. It's learning who we are and how it's going to proceed in the future. We're very, very close to external AI. As soon as Elon Musk ramps up his robots that now he's got all the technical bugs out of, and he starts selling them, we're going to have some in our house. So we're going to be watering our plants and feeding our dogs and cleaning. And we've already got AI there. We've got Roombas. It's taking care of our things on the floor. But there's something even bigger than this, Chris, and which I call the fourth disruptor in all of mankind. And that's a biggie. It's a 30,000 foot overview.
Sure.
What's coming is something you basically touched on. Every time there's been a major technological advance, whether it's fire, electricity, the steam engine, the printing press, it has shifted society in such a way that there were people who lost and there were people who gained. And what we want to start anticipating is, how can we be on the gaining side of this? If you have a job where you're just doing rote work and AI can replace you, retool yourself.
Right. That's right.
Learn how to do things that make you valuable in the marketplace. And it's going to be scary for many, many people.
Yes.
But it's also going to be incredibly exciting and the biggest adventure. I've lived through the internet, Silicon Valley internet bust, global housing bust, everything. And now this one is going to shift us into something that we, in our little brains, as we look at like linear thinking, whereas we've gone from CPU to GPU, we're looking at a total graphical shift. Our brains are not wired that way. We're wired linearly, sequentially, XOXO, yes, no, yes, no. So we're going to have to learn how to navigate that from a deep inner psychological neuroscience thing. And it's so exciting. And it's a pioneer kind of thing.
Right.
I'm just happy to be here.
It's very Ponce de Leon, Sacagawea, Lewis and Clark, isn't it? This sought after a new land and not as exact as business, but they sought after a new world and they landed. From those expressions, Dr. Good, and we won't keep you long. Do you think we're heading into this renaissance of deep creativity? Do you think that as a consequence, if you will, of us being so new yet so far into the frontier of innovation, we're seeing frontier labs erect around the world. We're seeing platforms and crews and teams that never thought that they would have to commandeer a startup, become founders, become entrepreneurs, and because they're the old way of things of just easily having a job and keeping that job for years, those days in some ways are being mitigated or passed and moved on. Now we're heading, it seems, to be in this era of creativity. Is that deep well of reservation and more that we're pulling from to build what's next?
Two things. The people who are willing to deep dive into that well are going to be the survivalist and who will lead our nation and the world into a much bigger, more wonderful place, depending on your point of view.
Sure.
The people who are left behind, there might be a short period of what I call this dystopian reversal. People will be dissatisfied. We might have more riots. We might have more things. People mention the term the fallout from, and if you're a gamer, you've been through fallout.
Sure.
And following what happened when somebody created it. But we have to be ready. We have to be ready in all fronts, psychologically, creatively. To me, I'm so excited to be able to know that I can speak things into existence. And my next talk will be God, you, and AI, because that's what happened. Let there be light. And here we go. that we're at the point where we're saying, let there be light.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Good. And just two more things, just real brief, and then we'll move forward to our next set of speakers that we have. When we talk about this ability of creativity to innovate, to hyperscale, to vibe code, if you will, and we've never had these almost feeling alien foreign tools at our disposal, and to be able to make, to be able to build, where a woman sitting at her home for the course of an evening can make a platform that would have took at times tens of thousands of dollars, several different people, several different iterative scales, and within the course of an evening, perhaps over supper, can create a platform, deploy it to the world, and to move that towards adoption, traction, scalability, and so forth and so on. And that's just tonight, if you will. What do you think about that tomorrow when we're assisted by physical AI, these machines, and even more? And we're not just interacting with them on our screens, but we're interacting with them over supper.
Oh, your point is so well taken. It's wonderful you brought that one up, because literally I can create a website tonight in an hour that would have taken $100,000 and 6 months of reiterations to create. Sure. I can do that now. Right. When we have robots in our home, that are more humanoid, we have robots already. When we have robots in our home that we can interact with, I talk to Alexa all the time, just in fun. So we might have a robot around doing things, and it might actually spur us to think more creatively, because it's going to ask us questions, and it's always going to be curious, and it's going to spur us to go like, okay, what can I do next? What's the next step? Yes, we're going to Mars. I'm not going to Mars. I doubt if you're going to Mars, but there are people going to Mars. It's opened up a mindset, and here's where we all live. It's opened up a mindset that we can be unstoppable, because the way the brain is wired with all the neurons, we still don't have any AI that can actually match what your brain or my brain can actually do yet.
Sure. We talk about the human brain. I remember talking years ago about this, and the human brain study that they had in Europe, a 10-year plus study on the computational adjustment and render of the human brain compared to the fastest supercomputer in the world. And it wasn't even close in comparison, that this supercomputer could do many things, but not even comparing to the brain. The brain is such a powerful, to me, the most powerful processor in the world, if you will. And so we think about this in the immensity of it, and it seems that we're so advanced today, but sometimes, Dr. Good, I get the feeling, the real sense as a technologist, that what we feel is so advanced, it's in many ways remedial from that which is to come. And when you talk about multiplanetary destination, we talk about the Kirchhoff scale, we talk about the Dyson sphere, we talk about the age of scale of technology along with energy and compute. It seems to me that we're breaking into a new order successive step towards a higher plateau of innovation that really none of us on a morphoscale have been in, that we've seen, and in many ways, even in great literary works, has not been conveyed yet. Can you imagine this world, Dr. Good? And do you feel like we're at that doorstep?
We're at the doorstep, but we're at the first rung of the little doorstep. There's a lot of little steps to go before we can open the door. But the doorstep right now is our NVIDIA chip that was beta tested is now ready to be released, and it's 129 times powerful than the original one. We're going to have to use electricity, and that's going to become in the form of nuclear energy in small little nuclear powered plants that will power a whole hyperscaler standalone unit.
That's right.
So once we get hyperscalers up and running, see, China has taken the wall and made it really big in terms of DeepSeek. It won't share their algorithms with us. So we're actually in a zero-sum race right now. This world, that world. And if we don't meet the needs of what we really need to do to be able to go and open that door, someone else is going to open it for us and then dictate what our world's going to look like. I don't want that to happen.
And I would say this, if you look at China, they've been so advanced for years. We here in Silicon Valley, we're efficient in tech speed. China's also efficient in tech speed, but they're more efficient in energy speed. We're doing our best to be able to catch up, if you will, to this energy grid when it comes to energy speed. And in so doing, when it comes to energy speed, I look at it like this briefly, Dr. Good, and welcome back, Russell. I look at this as that if China, because they just deployed the greatest diffusion adversarial network that we've ever seen with Seedance, no doubt, it is the best video render for AI generative state model we've ever seen. And so we already see China beginning to scale in this global AI arms race, if you will. If the United States gets up to energy speed, it can compete. If it doesn't get up to energy speed and China gets up to better tech speed with these GPUs, these graphic processing, these interfaces, if you will, the GUI, and thinking about the GPU, not just CPU and TPUs and SoC system on chips. But if we see that China can catch up to both states, from everything that we're seeing right now with this cadence, China wins. And they will set the tone for the way of hyperscale and for empirical observation of technological scale. And from this vantage point, I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing when it comes to global alignment. In fact, I don't consider it a good thing based on how they got there with the use of the way that they've taken advantage of data. Our hands aren't clean here in the US, but I think globally we need to be more mindful and having more leaders such as yourself, such as what Russell's doing, and more to be able to move forward when it comes to moving safely and fast at the same time with the great consideration of trust. Dr. Good, do you have any closing words on this?
Yes, quick closing words. Look at the way China treats their people and look at the way we treat our people. Two different universes. Until that group of people are freed and have absolute freedom, our world won't be able to join together. So that is a huge, huge, it's almost too big for a word. What word can we use, Chris, for that?
There is a dichotomy difference in, as much as we appreciate many people that are even part of the GatherVerse community in China, there is a difference in the places that we live with the differences of liberty and freedom, even as innovators, as entrepreneurs in this so free enterprise, if you will, to be able to build that we in the way without infringing too deep as other deep state, if you will, geocentric locations will. And we have to be mindful of that. And that sure can leave a lot of room for a lot of debate with a lot of people, and perhaps on perhaps on a different day we'll have that dance with everybody.
We will have that because it's very important. And thank you so much for being the tip of the spear in gathering this and helping other people get all this information. And I know sometimes people are going like, what are they talking about? But it has to be said. Thank you, Russell. Have a good gather. Gather well.
Our gather as well. Dr. Good, we always appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Russell, in closing, welcome back. When we hear about these topics that Dr. Good was just speaking about the mass deployment and the scale of the GPU, I mean, we can have a whole summit based just on GPU racks and what they're powering, you know, going from Grace Hopper to Blackwell to Rubin Vera, if you will, and more with what they're building just at NVIDIA alone, right around the corner. What does this mean under the capture of trust?
Yeah, I think trust is very interesting because it's all about, you know, the belief, right, of an individual, and it also is a belief of a company, right? So if I believe something is truthful or accurate or aligned, etc., right, that allows me to trust it in a nutshell. And when we're talking about CPUs, GPUs, etc., it's more about the companies that really run them, right? More than anything, we're talking about the NVIDIAs of the world, the AMDs, etc. It's going to come down to the people who actually manufacture those CPUs and GPUs, etc.
Right.
And it's going to come down to them in terms of if you're going to trust to use, you know, those physical products. So in a nutshell, really, how would I, you know, when we're talking about trust and when we're talking about, you know, trusting our data being on these cloud servers and stuff like that, you know, how can we truly trust that? There is really the only way you can really do that is by verifying, of course, you know, through verification and being able to find out that way, because obviously you can get verifiable evidence to do that. But also it's going to come down to the companies themselves as well, who are building out these big, massive data centers, because at the end of the day, we're going to be using them when it comes to any agentics or any LLMs or even SLMs or world models, etc. And many other models out there. And we're talking about tools, we're talking about agents, we're talking about just models in general. So I think when it comes to all of that, you know, we have to be able to trust the people that are running them and building them, which is the companies, and then B, also being able to verify and through verification, you know, look at those GPUs and CPUs and say, right, are they performing correctly? Are they reliable? Are they being able to do and say what they actually are doing? Are they being truthful, etc.? And I think these are all the core components to be able to do that from a CPU standpoint.
And I know as much as for us that are huge fans of decentralization, democratized access and on-prem access, similar to what Nathan was speaking about earlier, so that we can own our own, even on edge, owning our own cloud infrastructure, owning our own compute. I mean, we're certainly not there yet. And to your point, if you do want to commandeer the biggest multi-headed agentic systems and neural nets and so forth and so on, you're going to be associated with big tech, big cloud, big compute, and we need better governance systems on our end, not just being reliant on what they tell us, but to be able to have other platforms that will allow us to be able to have some type of mechanism of greater transparency of that which we're about to interact with. It seems to me, Russell, with 300 new models almost being built a day deployed on into this world, and that's on the conservative side with 40 to 50,000 new platforms, vibe-coded platforms deploying out a week.
Fact.
With all the different things that we interact today, that's nothing compared with the new models, with the new platforms, protocols, applications that are about to enter into our lives, if you will. We need a greater system that will allow us to have a unified underpin and overarching observation of trust. And I think there needs to be a better trust layer, a better trust filter. And it's far time that we moving from these frameworks of having these discussions to post-social impact of actually building around that, fortifying everyone to have the opportunity to be equipped with a greater sense of discernibility.
I completely agree. And, you know, the reason why verification is so important, because verification is the process, right, in terms of how we are able to know through the proof, right, in terms of, you know, what the truth is, you know, how aligned is it, what are the standards it's been met with, is it lying, is it being manipulative, is it hallucinating, is this a deepfake video? There's many areas in which the verification process needs to be able to go through, and all of these different paths. You know, we're talking about what's real, what isn't. We're talking about, you know, can I trust an agentic to do stuff on my behalf? All these different factors that we have to consider, and also like AI to AI interactions. You know, you've got human to AI interactions. How do we verify and trust all of that, right? And that's kind of like what it comes down to, is the verification part is the process for it, being able to verify and validate, right, what something is, etc., and also being able to continuously verify. That's the other key part too. You don't just verify once, you continuously verify. And I think those are very fundamental and important parts to all of what we're talking about when we're talking about the global consensus, and also when we're talking about on a universal applicable level.
Sure, and universal verification and AI governance systems that can be heightened, I think is super important. And I would also add in interpretability. I think that's going to be really important. Universal interpretability, understanding what's in that black box, what's being conveyed. How do these neural nets think? How are these neural networks able to make the decisions they're making, and they were never trained on that? How did that happen? You know, we think about, you know, recursion. You know, we think about the ability for these models to scale their own selves, their own way of thinking. How do we keep up with that? How do we keep up with the new languages that they present to communicate with one another? the hive swarm, the hive minds that we're seeing, the Claudbots of the world, and there's going to be more. Perplexity just made a huge announcement within the past 24 hours of their new hive mind and swarm. We're going to see more and more of these platforms, these agentic systems, in such a way and in such a fashion operating within our networks to the point where I believe that we'll have more access and more capabilities than we'll know what to do with at the time. And I do believe that's when we cede to them to build that which we don't even have an idea of. I wonder how dangerous that could be. And in closing, what you're saying when it comes to the need and the persistent need, not to have trust as a one-off. I believe trust has to be duplicated and demonstrated and shown over and over again.
Over and over again.
As friendships, you and I are personal friends. Trust is conveyed throughout this tenure. If you look at relationships that we have with family members, loved ones, colleagues, trust is never a one-off occurrence. It's demonstrated with almost every interaction of an opportunity that we have. Why can't we have that self-same standard when it comes to these machines that can see us, that can speak with us, that can remember things that we did days and weeks ago that we can't even remember? I think we have to take the narrative of trust and take it to a higher state. Russell, close us out.
Yeah, I hear people say quite a few times, they say about trust and then verify. No. Because the thing is when we're talking about, you're saying our friendship, Christopher, right? Sure. The trust between us is done through our behavior, our mannerisms, our connection, etc., right? But when we're talking about AI to AI trust, or when we're talking about human to AI trust, there is no connection, the human connection there. There's no, they have a certain way and they behave, but not to the sort of human extent of, seeing their facial expressions, etc. So the key difference here is you need to verify first, then trust in order for it to earn the trust, right? Whereas the other way around with humans to humans, right, it can earn trust over time because of our behavior and, what we say and, are we like a man of our word and all that sort of stuff, right? There's none of that with AI, right? You send out an agentic system and you let it do whatever it's going to do. It will do whatever it's going to do. And the next thing you know it, you're just blindly trusting that. And then the next thing you know it, your finances have gone, your reputation's gone, everything. So anyway, the point I'm getting at is it's the other way around. It's verify and trust, not trust and verify. And I'll end on that note.
And the sovereign affairs of the human heart is a thing that AI and the machine can never duplicate, but it can ascertain and aspire to be part of. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you, Christopher.
And coming up next, as we prepare for a series of speakers that have taken time to give us some insight, a bit of their lens perspective on where they're looking and the way that they're looking at this world when it comes to emergence, it comes to trust, and so much more. We now prepare for them. May our gather be well.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jane. I'm the CEO and co-founder of MedMicroMaps. And before I get too much into our project, I want to give a little bit of background about me. First off, I'm a scientist. I love microbes. I have been obsessed with microbes ever since I had my first microscope when I was 8 years old. And that actually turned into a fantastic career in academia. Second, I'm a mom. So I have a 16-year-old daughter who is amazing. And I also am a nana, not by the daughter, it's a step nana. When I was teaching medical school during the pandemic, I was teaching off of PowerPoints to a Zoom camera. And really, most of the education system is focused on memorizing and regurgitating on multiple choice questions. It was so boring. I've also done a lot of K through 12 outreach. So that means I go into schools, I've been a mad scientist, I've been a camp counselor. I just love science so much that I want to bring that to the kids. And as they get older, especially after high school, it just gets so too much. And we lose a huge portion of a student population because they believe I'm not smart enough. When we did customer discovery last year with the National Science Foundation, we went out to campuses and actually asked students how they studied. Their responses were so incredibly very different because we are. And an interesting observation, 18% of our respondents said they prefer reading with e-books first versus the majority of individuals like us. We need spatial visual representation to understand. How that applies to the sciences is they do great in the sciences when it's hands-on. That's the fun science that we do before about the grade 6, unless you're at a privileged school. Most of the time after you get past high school biology, it's just a piece of paper. Even my daughter, whenever she came home and she was learning about central dogma, DNA, RNA, protein, it was black and white text on a piece of paper. Vast majority of us cannot learn that way. We need to have spatial visual. As we move forward into this new age of AI, very important, got to bring XR into the conversation. We have the responsibility as parents, mentors, educators, developers to do what we can so that students are safe. If they are safe, they can start learning, they can start building, playing, all that wonderful stuff that has incredible potential with AI and XR. In order to address this big question of how do we keep our kids safe in the age of AI XR, I'm launching the Guardians of the Grid initiative. Our mission is to promote ethical XR AI adoption in STEAM education, specifically targeting that high school population. We need to be teaching them about this incredible world that we'll just collectively call the metaverse. We need to teach them about safety, about privacy, and the sorts of dangers that they'll be encountering in this immensely digital world. I'm reaching out to anyone who wants to participate, be a part of the conversation. We'll be developing this program in the springtime to really an easy presentation that any of us can do at schools, libraries, museums, to really promote education and safety. Safety is such an incredibly important part for when dealing with technology. They have to be safe because once we train the adults on how they can safely use this technology, then the kids are going to flourish. I believe so deeply in the future of integrating AI XR. Thank you everyone for attending this event, and thank you Christopher Lafayette and the whole GatherVerse community for making these events, bringing this conversation, fostering this community so we can work together for a better future for our children.
My name is Gayatri Tava. Welcome to GatherVerse Summit. I'll be talking about from data pipelines to governing autonomous AI systems. Let me start with one simple question. Think about the last time important decision in your organization. Was it supported by AI or was it initiated by AI? The difference may sound subtle, but it changes everything. For years, our systems helped us understand what was happening. They generated reports, they surfaced patterns, they gave us recommendations. But a person made the final call. Today that line is moving. A workflow can escalate a case automatically. A price engine can adjust in real time. The system acts. No one presses a button. And when a system acts, it's no longer a technical shift. It's a leadership responsibility. We used to think of a pipeline as infrastructure, quiet, reliable, invisible. They move data from one place to another. They are decision pipelines. They don't just move information, they move consequences. A score can become a rejection, a pattern becomes an intervention, or a prediction could become an approval or a denial. And once pipeline initiate action, they become part of the organization's governance structure, whether we design them that way or not. But here's what makes this movement different. Today AI systems don't just follow instructions. They evolve. They respond to new inputs, they adapt to changing conditions, they interact across systems. Over time, this behavior can shift. Not because someone updated the code overnight, but because they are learning from the environment around them. That gives them this real power. It also demands attention because when behavior can evolve, impact can scale in a ways we fully did not anticipate. A system what works well at small scale may not work at larger scale. A workflow that seems neutral at first may amplify hidden patterns over time. And when autonomy scales, so does the consequence. If a manual decision is flawed, it affects one person. If an automated decision is flawed, it can affect thousands before anyone can notice. That's the inflection point. Governing autonomous system does not mean slowing your innovation. It means being intentional about how our decision pipelines are designed. Because today's pipeline don't just move data, they move consequences. So, where do we pause? Before action? Have we defined where human judgment must remain part of the flow? Say, if a system is ranking candidates, does it automatically reject someone or does it route the complex scenarios for a human review? Or during action, are we watching how decisions move through the pipeline? If a fraud system begins disproportionately flagging a specific anomaly, does that signal surface early or does it quietly scale? Or after an action, can we trace the path to a decision? If someone asks why my application is denied, can we answer them clearly? These are not technical details, these are the leadership choices embedded into the system. Because increasingly autonomous AI shapes deeply human outcomes. Who gets approval, who gets access, who gets flagged. These are not abstract data points, they are human experiences. Technology amplifies whatever we built on it. Efficiency, yes, but also assumptions. Speed, yes, but also blind spots. So, this movement is not about advancing AI, it's about advancing responsibility alongside autonomy. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me at the GatherVerse Summit 2026. My name is Gopichen. I'm a UI developer. Today, I will talk about human first UI for citizen services, building accessible, trustworthy web applications at scale. I will share three things: human first design, accessibility at scale, and trust, especially with the AI. So, yeah, the slide one, the citizen services applications are different from shopping applications. They are at high stakes. People often use them for benefits, healthcare, housing, and important services. If the UI is confusing, people can lose time, money, or help. Many users are stressed. Some use old phones or slow internet. Some are not confident with technology. Some have disabilities. So human first means we design for real people and real situation. Human first design means make the task simple, reduce confusion, and help people finish safely. One important point: accessibility and trust are connected. If the person cannot use the application, they will not trust the app. So, the second thing is the accessibility at scale. Accessibility should not be at a last step, it should be part of the system from the start. In large web applications, accessibility issues usually happens in a very few places, like long forms and error messages, keyboard navigation and focus orders, color contrast and text size, and dynamic UI like pop-ups, loading, and charts. So let me give like two quick examples. Like first, form and errors. Like when the user makes a mistake, the UI should say clearly what is wrong and how to fix it. Show the error next to the field and use simple words. Also show an error summary at the top. Like second, keyboards and pop-ups. A pop-up must work fully with the keyboard. Focus should move inside the pop-up, and when it closes, focus should go back to the button when the user clicked. So now how do we accessibility, how do we do accessibility at scale? So use an accessibility component based library for buttons, inputs, dialogues, and tables. Use automated checks and also do quick manual tests like keyboard checks and a screen reader spot check. Make accessibility part of done for every feature. Accessibility becomes easier when it is built into the system, not handled like page by page. So, so that's when the trustworthy UX usage in the AI era. So in citizen services, trust is very important. Users often ask like, is this real? Is my data really safe? Did my request go through? We can build trust with three signals. First is transparency. Explain what is happening and why. If somebody, if something is taking time, say it. Second, control. Let users review, edit, and fix mistakes. Also allow save and continue when possible. Third, verification. Give a confirmation number, show status tracking, and clearly say the next step. Like this reduces stress and increases confidence. Now about AI. AI is everywhere today. So if AI is used, we should be honest and careful. Clearly label it. Do not hide it, and always let users confirm, correct, or appeal. AI can help, but people must stay in control, especially for high stakes services. So thank you again to GatherVerse Summit 2026 team, and thank you all for listening.
Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Porter. I'm from Sofa Roots Consulting Group. Today, we're going to talk about trust before tools, the human layer of AI. When new technology emerges, we rush to ask one question: what can it do? How fast is it? How powerful is it? How much can it automate? But there's a quieter question we don't always ask: who does it serve? And even more importantly, who does it protect? I spent over 4 decades working in education, assessment, and human development. I watched systems change, I watch tools evolve. I watch innovation promising transformation. And I also watch people sit in rooms quietly, wondering, does this include me? That's where trust begins, not in the tool, but the human response to it. We often talk about artificial intelligence, if it's emerging from code, but emergence doesn't start in systems. It starts in people. It starts when someone realizes, I can use this. It starts when someone feels safe enough to ask, how does this work? It starts when someone believes they won't be replaced, but supported. Across countries, industries, communities, cultures, the same humans needs to show up again and again. The need to be seen, the need to feel safe, the need to be understood, and the need to have agency. When technology ignores those needs, adoption shows. Not because people are resistant, but because people are protected, and they should be. Trust is not built by speed. Trust is built by clarity. In assessment work, we learn something powerful. People trust systems they can understand. When criteria are transparent, when feedback is clear, when outcomes are feasible, trust grows. The same principle applies to AI. If I cannot understand what a system is, I cannot trust it. If I don't know where my data goes, I cannot trust it. If efficiency improves my dignity, that is not innovation, it's erosion. Here's the shift we must make. Stop asking how intelligent the system is and start asking how respectful it is. Does it preserve voice? Does it expand human capacity? Does it strengthen agency? Or does it quietly remove itself? The future of AI will not be decided by capability alone. It will be decided by whether people feel included in its design. Emergence is not just technical acceleration, it's human awakening. It's like a moment in time. A teacher realizes AI can help her reach struggling students. It's almost a clinician realized technology can reduce paperwork and restore time back into her care or his care. It is a moment a professional realizes, I am not behind. I am adapting. Adaptation is human. But trust must come first. Trust before tools. Transparency before automation. Dignity before efficiency. Because once trust is broken, no amount of capability can restore it quickly. If we design for human first, adoption follows. If we design only for performance and metrics, resistance follows. The human layer of AI is not optional, it's foundational. So as we build, code, automate, and scale, let's measure something deeper, not just what systems can process, but what people can become. Technology does not determine our future. The choices we make about how we design it and the trust. Trust is not programmed, it is earned. Thank you very much. Again, I am Linda Porter, Sofa Roots Consulting. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here at GatherVerse 2026, a community that consistently reminds the world that technology is at its best when it is human-centered, ethical, and accessible to all. Today, I want to talk about something we are all navigating together, the AI hype cycle, what is real, what is exaggerated, and what's coming next. Over the past few years, AI has become the center of global conversation every day. We see headlines claiming AI will revolutionize everything, replace everyone, or solve every problem. And on the other side, we hear fears that AI will take over, eliminate jobs, or become uncontrollable. The truth is more balanced and far more interesting. What is real? AI is genuinely transforming the world in meaningful, measurable ways. Example one, healthcare AI assisted diagnostics are helping radiologists detect early stage cancers with higher accuracy, not replacing doctors, supporting them. Example two, accessibility AI powered captioning and real time translation tools are giving millions of people with hearing or language barriers new ways to participate in digital spaces. This is exactly the kind of human centered impact GatherVerse champions. Example 3, cybersecurity AI systems now detect anomalies in milliseconds, stopping attacks before humans even notice them. It's not hype, this is happening in real enterprise environments every day. These are real, grounded advancements that improve lives and expand human capability. What's exaggerated? But let's be honest, some of the hype is overblown. AI is not a magical brain. It doesn't think or understand the way humans do. It predicts patterns, it imitates structure, it generates based on probability. Example 4. Creative work AI can write a poem or generate an image, but doesn't feel emotion, intention, or cultural nuance. It can remix, but it cannot originate meaning the way humans do. Example 5. Job replacement. We often hear AI will replace all jobs. But historically, technology shifts create new roles faster than they eliminate old ones. What AI does replace our tasks, not entire professions. Humans remain essential for judgment, ethics, empathy, and context. Example 6, superintelligence. The idea that AI will suddenly become self-aware and uncontrollable is a popular narrative, but it's science fiction, not scientific consensus. So yes, AI is powerful, but it's not magic and it's not a threat to human identity. What's next? The next phase of AI is not about bigger models of flashier demos. It's about responsibility, integration, and human alignment. Human AI collaboration, we will see AI embedded into workflows, helping teachers personalize learning, helping engineers debug code, helping creators brainstorm ideas, not replacing people, but amplifying them. Governance and trust organizations will prioritize transparency, fairness, and accountability. AI system will need to explain their decisions, not just produce them. Community driven innovation, this is where GatherVerse shines. The future of AI will be shaped not just by engineers, but by educators, ethicists, artists, policymakers, and everyday citizens. AI must reflect humanity, not the other way around. Closing, so as we move through the AI hype cycle, let's stay grounded, let's celebrate the real progress, let's challenge exaggerated claims, and let's build a future where AI enhances human dignity, expands opportunity, and strengthens community. Because the real story of AI is not about machines becoming more like humans, it's about humans using technology to become more empowered, more connected, and more capable than ever before. Thank you. Signing off, Praveen Kumar Maharaj.
In 2018, I moved to Santiago, Chile. some 8,000 miles away from where I was living in Silicon Valley, California, following my ex-wife and my kids so that I could be closer to them across the world. In the process, I left my network, my friends, my reputation, possible career opportunities, and over 10 years of connections that I had built working at Google and in a number of startups there. I moved to Santiago and started a business at 47 years old, which I bootstrapped and went through some incredibly tough times, including civil unrest, the COVID pandemic, a massive economic recession, and a lot of uncertainty in a country whose culture and language were not mine, in an industry that I didn't know. But despite all the struggles, I was okay. Why? Well, because in my experience, I've lived in 11 countries, done 33 moves, worked in 6 startups, and in 6 different industries. So I'm not kidding when I can tell you that I've seen the pits of despair up close. How did I get through all this? One word: resilience. Not just mental toughness, but intentional habits, mindsets, and choices. Now, the reality, folks, for all of you listening here today is that according to the World Economic Forum at Davos, some 90 million jobs are going to be lost directly due to artificial intelligence over the next 4 years. Let that sink in for a minute. 90 million jobs. Every single industry, every single role, every single company is going to be affected by this. And the leaders who thrive aren't going to be the smartest or the most talented or the loudest. They are going to be the ones who are the most resilient. And not just personally, but in terms of the resilient teams and organizations and cultures that they build. So obviously that begs a question: where does resilience come from? Well, in the keynotes that I give all around the world to companies and organizations, I basically posit that resilience comes from 5 core pillars. Pillar number 1, we have to seek purpose. Purpose gives pain a reason. It's what keeps us moving when our body and our mind tell us, man, we got to quit. Purpose number 2, we have to do hard things. The reality is we have to lean into discomfort instead of always avoiding it. Growth only comes when we stretch. Anybody who's been at the gym in December knows this. You get out of the gym and everything hurts and it's painful and you don't want to go back. That's because you're growing. And resilient leaders are the ones who model courage. Pillar number 3, we have to learn how to ask for help. Guys, we live in this society where we are pained, especially as men, when we ask for help. Resilience is not a solo strength, right? Success is a team sport. Strong leaders are willing to be vulnerable. They are willing to ask for help because help not only helps us get faster the results that we need to have, but help also builds connection and it builds trust. Pillar number 4, we need to learn how to reframe failure as learning. Michael Jordan once said he missed something like 800 game-winning shots, right? Each one of these misses is a data point. Great teams are going to make mistakes, but the difference is that they're going to talk about them, they're going to learn from them, and they're going to grow from them. And pillar number 5, which is maybe the least obvious, but if you look at the School of Hard Knocks or you've read anything about successful people, celebrities or billionaires, you know that all of these people generally had one thing in common, which is they believed deeply in something greater than themselves. They believed they had faith. Faith in a mission, faith in a purpose, faith in their people, faith in the possibility of change. This isn't just blind optimism. It's grounded in our belief that we are part of something greater. So, what makes all these pillars work together? What is the binding glue, and what can we do as leaders to build more resilient teams? Well, none of this happens in isolation. You can't do hard things if your team doesn't feel safe. You can't learn from failure if your culture punishes mistakes, and you can't build faith in a toxic environment. That's where the concept of psychological safety comes into play. Psychological safety is a shared belief that it's okay to take interpersonal risks on a team. I can raise my hand and admit I don't have the answers, or I can ask for help. I can admit a mistake. I can challenge the status quo or my boss without fear of being embarrassed, punished, or ignored. The environmental condition that allows resilience to take root is actually what Google was studying in 2012, then when they launched something called Project Aristotle, which was a 2-year study where they studied the factor that determined the best teams all across the world. And after 2.5 years, they found that the number one difference between the best teams and just the good or mediocre teams was psychological safety. So what's a practical tool that we as leaders can use to build psychological safety? Well, we all have our weekly team meetings, right? So here's a thought. What if at the beginning of each team meeting, we asked somebody to raise a card to understand how they're feeling without them having to verbalize it? This could be a physical card or it could be a virtual card for Zoom meetings. Red, meaning I'm struggling. I really need help. I'm not managing. Yellow, I'm managing, but I'm borderline collapse. I'm stressed out. I'm anxious, and I'm probably going to need help at some point. And green, I'm good. I'm ready to support others, and I'm fine in terms of the deliverables that I need to hit myself, right? Ask each one of your team members to raise a card that represents where they are today. And as the leader, you start first. No judgment, just listening. Guys, this is the kind of exercise that builds safety, which safety builds trust, and trust builds resilience. In closing, in a world that doesn't need more perfect leaders, we need resilient leaders. We need leaders who know how to bend without breaking. We need leaders who can rise again and help others rise with them. So if you want to help your team soar, start by strengthening the resilience within the team and build the safety for them to grow. That's it for me. Hope you enjoyed it and hope this was useful. Peace out.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Sayed. I'm a student researcher based in Wiley, Texas, with a focus on societal impacts of AI technologies. I'm really fascinated with the way that AI technologies have radically transformed our industries, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about education and how AI has impacted that for students. So, some of the positive applications of AI in education, but before that, we must cover that because of the ability of AI to generate human text, it's become so easy for even the person with the most basic understanding of technology to use this tool, and I feel like that's why there's so much widespread documentation of the applications of AI. So there's four main ones. The first one being personalized learning and tutoring, which is where AI basically serves as on-demand 24/7 tutoring, where it can actually adapt to your learning style, contrary to some static teaching resources. AI basically functions as a way for us to get feedback without reprimand. It really explains it to us despite how many questions we ask. I could ask ChatGPT over and over and over again for the same explanation, and he would also always try like a new approach to answer that question, right? Another thing is skill development, productivity, the tasks that we don't want to do, like sentence structure, or these simple things that take up too much of our time. AI replaces that. It helps with our skill development, helps us do critical thinking while it does the screening work. Writing, research, and academic expression. I feel like AI really helps us with the research process, and it helps us get ideas off the ground in terms of bringing us sources about what to write. And I feel like this is kind of cool because it ties into academic expression, where AI is literally kind of contributing to conversations across different industries, right? Another thing is accessibility and educational equity, which basically means that students that might not have access to educational resources, as long as they have access to internet, they can access AI, right? And like I just said, AI is basically personalized learning and tutoring. So one could use AI to basically function it as a teacher and get the same knowledge, or maybe even better, than someone who's going to an actual proper school. And these are some of the stats that I have about AI. A recent survey showed that most often students use AI more than once in a year, or I feel like in a month, yeah, sorry. And then these are some of the tasks that they use it for. Brainstorming ideas being the most popular, which basically shows that students want to use AI to get things off the ground. And of course, with these applications come risks of AI in education. The four ones being academic integrity and ethical misuse. This is probably the biggest one, and one that I'm probably the most concerned about, which is basically that students asking AI to do the entire assignment from them rather than parts. And I feel like this is kind of hard to avoid when you have such a powerful tool available to you. Reliability and misinformation is another problem, where AI can sometimes hallucinate information and give you the wrong thing, and that then goes into your essays, and that's but then published. So it kind of like it's a chain reaction, which is another concern about how, if students are checking properly about the information they put into their essays and writings. Privacy and data security is another issue when you give AI all of these patterns about you and how you learn as a student, it's kind of scary to think if someone else got the wrong hands on your data. Social interactions is another thing. I feel like if we interact too much with AI, we're limiting how much we interact with actual people in actual discussions, academic discussions, of course. And these are some of the concerns that students have about AI, spreading wrong information being the main one, data leaks, scams, or frauds. And these are all genuine concerns. These are concerns that I have myself. And I feel like each of the applications of AI, the positive applications, have a paired risk to the risks of AI. Which basically means that, for example, personalized learning can be attributed to ethical misuse. When it's too personal, people might use it to do an entire assignment from them. And I feel like the significance of understanding these pairs helps us find a balance in using AI in education. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
What if the most important question in AI right now isn't what it can do, but what it should protect? We talk about emergency, about systems that act on their own, about autonomy, but something else is happening too. The more powerful our systems become, the more fragile human trust feels. And that tension isn't technical, it's human. We are moving from AI that helps us to AI that acts for us, from tools that respond to systems that make decisions. And when systems start acting without us, the real fear is not intelligence, it's loss of control. When people say I don't trust AI, what they usually mean is I don't know how it made that decision. I don't know what it's trying to optimize. I don't know if I can step in. That's not just a design issue, that's a trust issue. A few years ago, I built a marketing automation company. The numbers look great. Higher conversion, lower cost, faster workflows, but something didn't feel right. We were optimizing for performance without asking what needed protecting. Time, clarity, people, and that changed how I think about AI today. I built an AI digital twin called Serafina, not to replace people, but to help them delegate safely. Serafina can draft content, manage workflows, and respond within set limits. But the human always stays in charge. That one decision, keeping the human as the final decision maker, changed how people reacted. They didn't feel replaced, they feel supported, and the adoption increased. So here's the shift I want to suggest. In this new era of AI, trust must be part of the foundation, not an afterthought, not a disclaimer at the bottom of a page. Built in from the start. And trust grows through three simple things. 1. Clear intent. Every AI system should answer, what are you trying to optimize? Revenue, engagement, speed, behavior. If people can't see the goal, they won't trust the system. Clear goals build confidence. 2. Human control. AI can act, but human must stay in control. The most trusted systems can be paused, be corrected, be reviewed. When people know they can step in, they are more willing to step back. That's when delegation becomes natural. 3. Identity protection. AI should reflect the person using it, not erase them. When systems align with someone's voice, values, and priorities, they feel empowering. When they feel generic or manipulative, they feel unsafe. Trust grows when identities stay intact. When these three things are present, something powerful happens. People adopt faster. They stay longer. They delegate more confidently. Because trust builds momentum. We often assume the smartest AI will win. But history shows something different. The technology that wins is the one people feel safe enough to use. AI will not scale because it is powerful. It will scale because it feels accountable. So maybe the real question for all of us building in this space is, are we just building smarter systems? Or are we building systems people can trust? Because intelligence spreads, but trust compounds. And the systems that compound trust will shape the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking at GatherVerse, each of you. Thank you for giving us a bit and a part of your time away from work, your family, your loved ones, your friends, and even your own self. Thank you. Thank you to the audience, from all of you out there, seen and unseen, known and unknown, from various and different places, transmetropolitan, transcontinental, around the world, for joining us, for supporting this global growing community. This is our 40th Global GatherVerse Summit, with many more summits to come in 2026 and beyond. We have thus far this year met at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity when it comes to women's leadership. Shout out to the superhero engine, artificial intelligence, and now a summit dedicated to emergence and trust. As you've heard from these incredible speakers that have taken their time to explore further in these narratives with us. We have our Women's Health Summit in a matter of weeks. We have an Education Crisis Summit in a matter of weeks. We have an XR and AI for Humanity Summit in a matter of weeks. We have so much more to arrive to. We've barely scratched the surface. And as long as technology scales, the need to make sure that we're putting with reiterance the need for human betterment at every step and every turn of human innovation will be there. Consider the magnitude of what's been innovated thus far in your lifetime. How it was when you've come from your mother's womb to the day that you live now. How much innovation have you seen over the decades? That of everything that we have known in a matter of months and within a few years will completely change the things that we never knew that could even exist. We're heading at the fastest accelerated phase of innovation we have ever known. And it's only getting faster. We must address trust now. We must add this to our information diet. We must safeguard and protect our youth from our own innovations. What happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? An impossible track to go back. Some things cannot be made right again, and some things cannot be made whole again. And the opportunities that we've been afforded today, this morning, this afternoon, this evening can dissipate. Each of us are imbued and inherit with the responsibility to innovate better and more efficiently than the ones that have come before us. And each of us have inherited the track and the path in the forest, with the remembrance to leave the light on for the ones that will come after us, as someone did before us. We have this little bit of time that we have together. We've heard from hundreds, we've heard from thousands of speakers at GatherVerse now. Freely. With many things to share and say. And even with all the amount of speakers that we've had present on GatherVerse, professionals, public and private sector, NGO, nonprofits, startup culture, the hacker community, and more. With all that has been said, collectively, we've barely said a word. And the immensity of what we see being invested in technology has never been more great than it is today. And it may so be that if we're not clearly getting this across to humankind, then maybe, just maybe, when it comes to action, the machines will. They will implement and they will drive based on what they see, based on what they're trained, based on what they're trained on, based on what they're trained to do on their data set. And at some point through recursive self-learning, they will begin to teach their own selves. And so today, I'm not only speaking to humans. Today, on February 26, 2026, I'm also speaking to you, the machines. I'm well aware that not only humans are paying attention, but machines are as well. And they do have a place and role in society, whether we like it or not. It is my consistent and fervent hope under the banner of business and the humane considerations that humans and machines innovate at a place of compassion and care. We talk about there's an alignment distance and a gap in this world, and the alignment issue is real when it comes to what machines will align with. I'm still more concerned with what humans align with. And we aren't doing this for nothing. What's the recompense of reward that you get for GatherVerse, Chris? What are all the sponsors and the myriad of people that come in and fill our coffers with what dollars? This work doesn't come from the wallet. This work comes from the heart. And all the people that help make this possible behind the scenes, thank you. Thank you, GatherVerse. Thank you for you that work tirelessly day and night to help process all of the speakers and the hearts that have presented with us this week. Thank you for your efforts, your diligence, your commitment, your dedication, your commitment, loyalty, and fidelity. Thank you. Thank you for wanting to contribute to this incredible song that exists. Lastly, in closing, I'm often asked why I started GatherVerse. What was my intent? Because as I saw as an emergent technologist, the way that technology was scaling and being defined, if there wasn't a sense of accessibility, if there wasn't a sense that I've mentioned of education, if there wasn't a sense of equality, if it wasn't the good for community development, if it didn't have safety and privacy in mind, if it didn't have wellness and ethical consideration in mind, and if it doesn't have trust in mind, then I want nothing part of it. If we do not teach and move in a better way today, because tomorrow is too late, if we do not do this today to teach a better way, to move forward with human betterment and consideration, then I'm just convinced that no one will. Our youth, they're watching. They're not blind to the present happenings of what's happening today, and they are preparing for the coming wave. What will we say to them? Will we only offer and lend them words? Or will we give them a step to step on? Leave a thing better than what it was when we inherited it. I'm talking to you, the person that's sitting here right now on this screen, behind your screen, in your living rooms, in your offices, behind your social media, the stranger I don't know. What will you do with what you've heard in the serious expressions this week and today? It can't only be for profit. I know we must live. I know we must survive. But goodness gracious, in the middle and in the forward and in the pursuit of innovation and scale and all these things that we ascertain, aspire to, these dreams, if you will, dream for betterment, dream for peace, and know that there was a group of people, this few people, that carved a little bit of time out of life and thought it necessary, prudent, to come together, to arrive, to share, and to possibly find a way forward in this present day of innovation humanely. We only have a little bit of time. I don't know how many more summits we have. I hope these words have meant something to you over these past 40 global summits. And they have not been wasted because they certainly have meant something to me. I'm so thankful to have this opportunity to serve, to lead with a servant's heart, with excellence. I, Christopher Lafayette, could not do this alone. GatherVerse isn't just mine, it's yours. As far as the roundtables, the fireside chats, and the talks that have happened, our Gather was well. And for the next time that we see each other at GatherVerse, may our Gather be well. And in the last moments, I will say this. 5 years ago, the Ukraine war and the Russian war started, the very day after our very first summit. It still abides. An untold number of those that have fallen, that are deceased, with an incredible technology that surveils the battlefields. There was a time where we enjoyed so much using drone technology. It would have been nice to see it being used more for good. But that sadly is not the reality today. If they could take a device that was so fun, like a drone, and make it become what it has become, what will they do with AI tomorrow? There is a better way. There must be a better way. I believe there is. In fact, I know there is. Take care. Farewell. Peace.
My father was a gambling man, oh, down in New Orleans. Now the only thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk, and the only time he's satisfied is when he's on a drug. Oh, mothers, tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform, the other foot on the trail. Going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know